Welcome back, everybody. And continuing into day number 2, we're actually heading into game number 4 now of the EU top 4 teams playing against each other for their slots at Worlds.
Elevate surprising us all here with this 2-1 victory now thus far. They're just one game away from going.
Like I said, I think Obey's going to bring it back. But it's definitely going game 5. Yeah, 100%.
And when Cherryo mentioned in his video, it's starting to turn more and more into a reality. He said it himself, we win game number 1, very likely that we're going to end up walking away with this set victory. And now more than ever, it's looking like that's pretty true.
Yeah, it's true. It just seems that Obey Alliance can adapt to the strategy that Elevate has brought for this land. They've been showing signs of it here and there during the online portion. So Obey should have been prepared for this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is something they like doing, right? Everyone kind of knew. They like big front lines, and they like double ADC, and they like doing objectives. They like killing tanks. They know exactly who they are as players and as a team.
I do believe that the majority of people would have certainly expected this to be a fairly clean set from Obey, just automatically getting the victory. But now's our time to see whether or not they are going to be able to bring it back in game number 4 to tie the set up one more time. And Obey actually with the first pick.
They want to switch things up. They're tired of being second pick now. They want to see Elevate to see how they adapt on that Chaos side. And I'm expecting Obey Alliance maybe to strip away the Artio, I think, from Elevate.
I think Artio is definitely up there. They've been playing it every game. I think Obey might run AMC, though.
How do you feel about Obey running back the Sylvanas? Because we've seen it already 3 games today, and we were having a little bit of conversation ourselves with it. But do you think that it's absolutely necessary?
No, I like a lot of the combos that they have. Like I said, I like the Raijin Sylv, and I like the heals and the prots. I like Sylv, but we can definitely do something else.
I think Obey Alliance are just generally cursed with Sylvanas. It doesn't matter if they have EmilZy in that support role or somebody else. They don't have the most success. I think EmilZy could play a wide variety of God pools. Time to go away from the Sylvanas.
Well, there's the main difference, though, is that EmilZy can play a wide variety of God pools, and I'm really excited to see whether or not Obey try to maybe switch it up a little bit here. I'm not opposed to the Sylvanas entirely. I am just a little bit curious, though, to see if they do something different, and it looks like they already have something a little different in mind.
The reasoning why here is that this Artio for Elevate can flex in so many different roles. It's not a bad idea for Obey Alliance to stop guessing where this god is going and give it to themselves, allowing them this flex option.
I definitely, yeah, I agree. You take it away. The issue with going Artio here is, I mean, you've seen Elevate's god pools. There's a lot of things that deal well with Artio. Are they just going to immediately punish it and make them regret the pick?
Well, this is actually going to be the first game as well where Obey aren't going to be banning away that Najah in the initial banning phase. So now Elevate, with 2 picks instead of just the 1, can make the decision as to whether or not they want to maybe try throwing Cherryo onto the Assassin instead.
And if they do run Cherryo into this Najah Assassin, this also means that maybe DeathPanter is going to try to follow that up with some Mage Burst, which is also going to be that first time Mage pick for him this land, consistently playing the Hunters, the physical Hunters rather, this time around. We'll see if that's an option for him.
What I want to see Raijin out of him for sure, especially if they're picking up Najah. I think they have a pretty good comp, but I do love seeing the Xing 10. I think Xing 10 works very well into Artio, and I think Huyi is also extremely good into Artio. So if they combo, you can just kill Artio before she can even respond. She can't dash, she can't leave. You flip, stun, and they just die inside ults.
Whenever I see Elevate select Xing 10, though, I understand that it can be looked at as more of a flexible option for the team. I do feel as though this is more no-number style. He had a phenomenal game 1 on the Xing 10, and I think a lot of people were pretty impressed by his gameplay there.
Yeah, no, he played fantastic on Xing 10. The thing is, whenever Xing 10 meets up with this Artio, Artio's gonna have a problem, right?
That's true. The initial knock up into the root here, whenever Obey Alliance want to be aggressive, that's something they need to be mindful and play around that space control that Xing Chen provides. And not only that, there's a Hou-Yi that's going to be dropping down the Suns, dissecting the team fights into 2. It's not going to be easy for Obey Alliance to cross that line.
But with Artio having been picked up for Obey, do you think that that's going to be more for Xaliea or a little bit? Well, I think that actually just answered our question. It is probably going to be for Xaliea. I don't really see Twig pulling out the jungle Artio like Cherryo and Fafnir Raijin. And Raijin, I mean, PrettyPrime's had a great series so far on this.
It's just doing so much damage this entire set here. With the exception of the last game, you know, Nox playing a big factor in limiting some of the Raijin damage, but you were saying how you don't necessarily see Twig playing this Artio in the jungle. He's been known to run not necessarily Artio in the jungle, but other utility kind of junglers here, even some bruisers every now and then.
And one of the fun factors about both of these teams is that they have players with so much mechanical talent that you could honestly throw whatever at them and just expect positive results. And I think since Elevate had such a positive result in that last game, it's no surprise to me whatsoever seeing that Nox being picked up again.
I love seeing the Nox pick here. Nox deals obviously extremely well with Raijin, which we saw last game. Deals great with Artio because Artio can't leave. And when she does get out of that combo, she has a slow dash that gets her out. She's still going to take damage after the combo, and it deals well with fast transformations.
Just a lot of control all across the board from Elevate. It's up to Obey Alliance to figure out how they want to try to penetrate that back line. Ratatoskr is normally a consistent ban from Elevate in the secondary phase, but this time, first taking away Circuit. It's going to be very important to see if they're going to strip away this global pressure.
Why do you feel as though Elevate opted to take away the Circuit, knowing that they had the Nox and Xing? Because that's a lot of peel, and both of those gods can handle Circuit pretty well.
It's just a lot of true damage onto any Guardian, honestly. You can bring it onto even the Xing, for example, making it annoying to try to engage and be that important pancake flipper that you need to be in these team fights.
I agree. I just don't think Cirque's a great ban here. You just destroyed Cirque last game,
True.
right? And she is a strong pick, and she can definitely snowball, and she can push Artio out of that early game, right? I think that might be a reason for it, but their comp deals with Cirque so well.
That's true. It could also be providing that early game lane pressure in the solo lane, trying to control the speed and the blue buff, maybe find some momentum under Xalia's lane and try to get him in a comfortable spot once he makes that early rotation. But no Ratatoskr ban this time. Instead, it's going to be the Uller.
Ratatoskr, I wouldn't be surprised to see Twig trying to snag that up for himself, but there's still plenty of other options that Obey might be wanting to wait and see before really looking for that rat, because even Ratatoskr can struggle a little bit against the Nox, and now that it is the third and fourth banning process, they are able to take away the Rom and the Najah. Both of those bans, I think, very smart choices.
Absolutely. Considering that Xing is probably going for no numbers, Nox for Dardez, not DeathPanter, as a normal team would probably try to get that in the mid's hand. Instead, will be in the support. Elevate, continue to throw questions up in the air for not only Obey Alliance, but us viewers here at home.
I love the Rom ban here. You saw how well it did last game. All right, we're done with it. We're not playing against it. It's dealing well with Raijin. The Nox and the Rom are working well together. They can hit the backline. They can stop damage. Great ban.
And because Elevate have been consistently landing these double hunters here, they already have Ho Yi, but they could honestly still put that in Jermain's hands and be a traditional Nox mid if they wanted to switch it up, but they've been kind of creating this theme of double hunter, triple guardian, but now outside of Najah Assassin, there's also the Batz that Cherryo loves for land environments.
With Batz being the next pickup, that is already so much crowd control from Elevate. They have a ton of CC to utilize on their draft alone, and circles. You can never really go wrong with circles.
I think if Elevate makes it to mid-game, they're going to win this, right? They burn... all of their gods can burn beads on their own. When you're burning multiple sets of beads, then Nox is picking people, Xing is throwing people back, Hun's having he can do whatever he wants. I'm liking this draft.
Spacing and time control for Elevate is going to be important of how they go onwards towards these team fights, trying to space out the crowd control, trying to force those beads in different rotations. One person goes in, peels away, while the next person follows up. And Xing here allowing Ataraxia to passively farm while Ratatoskr does get locked in. This global pressure could allow him to get to that backline hunter.
There's a lot of survivability available this time around, though, for Ataraxia. In the last game, I think we really saw how much he struggled not having a hunter with that CC immunity on their ult, because you just get so trapped. But with the Jing, he's going to be able to, I think, safely box into the Hu Yi, if that is a Hu Yi ADC, and it is going to be the Scylla coming through. This is going to be our first time with DeathPanter not being on a hunter.
I'm really excited to see how he plays on a mage and plays on a mage like Scylla.
That's true. Not having the Najah to follow up from the Scylla, but Batz is just as good with that Fear No Evil. There's going to be a lot of damage in these team fights for Elevate, and especially if they start things off first, it can easily control Obey's pathing.
if they make it to mid game, this game has to be over, right? If that draft makes it mid-late, they're unstoppable.
Well, I know that there's a lot of question marks surrounding that Scylla right now, and I'm certainly more than excited to see how game number 4 shakes out. So it's going to be Finch, and it's going to be Hindu taking us into game number 4.
Game number 4 indeed here between Elevate and Obey. Elevate are the ones out in front.
Yeah, they're winning.
They only need one more.
That's crazy. This game, though, completely different story. We're actually going to see 2 different compositions this time from these 2 teams. Really pleased that we saw the switch up from Obey in some way. I was hoping either the Artio ban or the switch in sides. We get the switch in sides, which also results in them getting the Artio, which makes Elevate go, okay, we've got to go back to the drawing board and use something different. And this time, it's looking a lot more standard Smite in terms of composition.
And we need to see just how well Elevate can adjust here, too. Elevate have been doing 3 games in a row where just about everyone is crazy tanky. Are they going to be able to go to this one where now they've got Batz and Scylla, who aren't as tanky as these Guardians they've been running?
And that's the funny thing is that the Des was talking about Elevate, like this is a good composition if they get to mid to late game. They're going to be in a much better spot than they have been previously. But at the same time, they don't have the levels of tankiness and peel for each other that they once did in the previous sets. On top of that, we also get to see Order side for Obey and Chaos side for Elevate. We'll see how this one works out now then because of that.
And this time, it's going to be DeathPanter on an actual mid on Scylla.
That's true.
Going up against PrettyPriMe. So they'll have some big burst mage damage of their own
But
to try and counter it.
Positioning will be very, very similar towards each other as well. It's not going to change too much in terms of positioning.
Yeah, it's not going to be too much different for him. What we are going to see a lot of, though, is Dardez on this Nox again. He did a real good job of it last game. It was so disruptive for him. And like we saw, he built a very supportive, very tanky.
He did, but with the Scylla play this time, we were talking about that. Basically, it's about the positioning of when he's playing the AMC, it's going to be very similar sort of style as playing a Scylla. You're not going to really mix it up too much in terms of how far away you're going to be.
Yeah.
You're going to be a little bit deeper with the actual damage you can get out from range with a crush, but you're still going to be positioned the same sort of way, so it shouldn't be too difficult for Panther. If anything, it's easy because he's got a freaking better escape than he's had all series so far.
And once again, no numbers is going it alone up against 2 members of Obey Alliance over there in solo lane. So how well can he still get access to his farm up against the pressure from Xaliea and CaptainTwig? Will they be able to go over there and strip away that jungle? As Cherryo's already taken a good bit of poke here in mid.
I'm not sure about taking that swing with that overhead smash from Cherryo. He got some good poke on EmilZy, but expecting the minions to cause a couple of problems. So pressure at the moment, even. Realistically, slightly in favor of Obey because they pushed in that wave. So he's going to allow Obey to invade the right-hand side. Meanwhile, left-hand side is Elevates. This seems to be the default that these 2 teams seem to go for. Let's try and get Jermain ahead on the left-hand side, leave Ataraxia alone, and then on the right-hand side, we'll strip away the whole jungle and try their best to put Cherryo behind.
And that's what they're doing, going for this purple buff. Dardez going aggressive, trying to slow down Jermain and trying to keep Ataraxia from coming into secure his own purple buff, trying to prevent it.
Not even sure who got that. I think it might just have been about Elevate there, because you can see Dardez going back for it. Yeah, he did get the purple buff and strip that one away, but it was a very close attempt from Ataraxia there, the body blocks from Dardez. And actually now Beads forced out on Ataraxia early on.
That's pretty big deal. Beads already forced out from Dardez, who's going to have a lot of control over there between the silence and the root anyway. So if they continue that pressure in the 2v1, Ataraxia going to have to be real careful.
So 2v1 in the left for Elevate, 2v1 on the right for Obey, and meanwhile in the mid lane, pretty much trade-offs between the 2.
And now we get to see Cherryo doing something a little bit different, playing the Unbots, kind of moving around. How well is he going to be able to set up on this? We know Cherryo can play this Unbots for sure, but it's very different from what he's done so far this set.
Well, funny enough, Humbats is one of the gods that generally, when we saw Humbats played a lot on the online stages previously, which hasn't been the case for a while, the difference is that Humbats at LAN, it's easier to beads because the Fear No Evil has a little tell with it. The voice, the sound animation, the sound plays before the animation does just ever so slightly, so you can almost pre-beads it. Hasn't really shut down Humbats overall, but it does make people not want to play it so much. Look at the amount of tower damage this has got so far from Elevate, though.
Yeah, they've really lost this left-hand lane over here between the pressure from Dardez and Jermain.
How's it going, Nate? Not
even any beads for Ataraxia to trying to get out of this one, and I know that's frustrating for the Hunter from Obey, but Jingwei can get back to lane quickly at least.
She can, but if she's not going to tower, she's not going to have much to come back to. He's going to recall back to base now. Oracle's contested and Elevate came out on top there too. Nice little win for the mid lane, which means there's less pressure now once again on the duo lane, which could take the tower off this wave.
I really think that they might have it here. Ataraxia is on his way right now. He is at least
Gotta
in
give it up.
solo farm, but yeah, he can't walk into this. Tier 1 tower
2.5
taking
minutes.
sub 3 minutes.
So now free gold in the coffers of Elevate straight away. It's only 400, but that's divided amongst the whole team. Sometimes when you see the 400 gold go down, it's normally a first blood, and it's on one person. But that extra gold is actually putting the whole team ahead technically, because they're all going to get some of that.
It is possibly good news, though, for Ataraxia, because now Dardez and Jermain, if they want to pressure him,
You're right.
would have to come pretty far down. So maybe he can safely farm a little bit better. So they do take that tower, but it also means that they're freer to rotate.
Completely true, and the one thing is because he's a Jing way too, like you were saying a minute ago, the passive ability to get back to lane so quick means that he's happy to just sit under the tier 2 like this. He'll freeze it the best he can. Make sure the minions don't come into the tower range so he doesn't lose gold to them too much if he can help it. That's why he's going to clear them off really quick in the front.
Might be
But
some aggression,
with all those
though.
hatches, he'll happy enough.
Xaliea just going to back up once again. No numbers, getting some help now from Dardez. Rotating all the way over there to solo to try and slow down Xaliea on this Artio. First time we're getting to see Xaliea on Artio now.
We are, but once again, he went for the beads. He has used his beads there after
Oh,
you saw
yeah.
the Whirlwind Rage seal from no numbers. But Xaliea seems to know that when he's against a Jing 10 and he's playing a Guardian type, just go with the beads. Play it safe. That's one of the benefits now in that solo lane is that there's plenty of options for them. You can go for meditation, teleport, shell, curse. Depends on what kind of matchup you're in and what you want to do with it. Even so, you know, that meditate, as I mentioned from Xaliea a couple of times. But when he realizes there's a little bit of CC that could be dangerous to him, just go play safe and get the beads.
And everyone for Obey Alliance as Dardez is now in the mid. This is what I was saying. Now that that tier 1 tower and left is gone, those two are both more free to go have impacts everywhere else. Now Dardez is holding this mid so that Scylla can come over here to those Harpies and secure those.
And the funny thing about Dardez at the moment is because it's early game, itemization isn't normally online too much anyway.
Yeah.
So Dardez's damage output is actually going to be pretty impactful in the early stages. So if he does find the Silence Root combination on someone like Prime, could end up sending him back to base early, which would slow down his build progression, which in the end is very impactful before the amount of damage he can put out is reduced or at least lackluster for the stage of the game.
No numbers was taking a peek to see if he could slow down the speed buff, but no chance of that happening. Too many members from Obey there. They were able to secure it. Actually going in a little bit aggressive is Xaliea, trying to help secure these fire elementals for his team. It looks like they were able to even too, so no numbers not quite enough.
EmilZy's going to be a bit careful here, so wrapped around by a couple of people. Will escape the route there coming out from Dardez, looking for the secure on that. But pressure in the mid lane for Elevate. And Obey obviously just have to farm out for the time being. With the situation that we're in with Jingwei, losing that tier 1 tower on the left-hand side so quickly, it kind of causes a couple of problems for Elevate. It's like, do we pressure the Gold Fury a little bit more now earlier on? It's not worth as much, but it also means that Jermain's going to be farming some more of this left-hand jungle, which means it's not as much for the rest of the team to take either.
They got 4 members here.
It's
They're
the
pulling the
attempt.
Gold Fury
Yeah.
and the Oracles, but only just to see who could respond. No one was. They realized that EmilZy was around, so they don't commit too hard onto that Gold Fury.
I think that ward just came down as well from the Oracles. So as soon as the ward drop, they're like, all right, we can't even try the Gold Fury here because they've got vision of it, and we've got no sentry to remove that anyway, so we'll just have to give it up.
Yeah, they recognized there was no way for him to do it.
Great play from
Ataraxia
Ataraxia.
continuing to freeze the wave. This is the way to respond to it. If Jermain is going to rotate now, Jermain is going to take that tier 1, try and limit some of his farm over here.
And that's the thing now, is like, look at Jermain on the left-hand side. Where can he get farm? He's either got to overextend now, or go towards mid lane maybe is the option, but then he's 4-man splitting potentially, causes some problems. And then when this happens, it's like, well, Ataraxia can take trades, because even if he loses the trade, he can come back. DeathPanter's nearly dead.
Talking about losing the trade, DeathPanter lost the trade, getting credit to PrettyPriMe in the mid lane on that Raijin. He's played it all 4 games, and he's looked good all 4 games.
Yeah, and it was one of the gods that I wasn't sure about continuing to give him. This is a different story of a game, however, though, so completely reset to factory settings in a lot of ways. It's almost like the other 3 games did matter, but now we get to see them both play sort of different compositions than we've seen previously.
It is going to be all different here. So how well can Elevate keep moving into doing a new comp? We know how well they can do that triple Guardian. Time to show us now that you can do this a little bit more standard composition here too. Of course, Dardez on Nox, not exactly standard. But
It's less lack of actual frontline peel is the big key here. I mean, they still have plenty of peelers on this team for each other, and they can support each other, obviously, with a Nox, even with a Fear No Even in the jungle, one of the best peels in the game.
Sure.
But what you're going to need to do is make sure that you're not going to be tanky enough to body block forever on the front line, which means if Panther's getting picked, if Jermain's getting focused, they don't have as many options to be able to like sustain the amount of input damage that Obey are going to be looking to do to them.
yeah, they're not going to be able to have those huge prolonged team fights that they were having before. That was helped a lot by the double shell. We can see this time they're going for no shell, actually. They got the teleport and the sprint over there on that side. So really, they sort of recognize that, hey, we're not going to be able to soak up damage.
I mentioned the shells. I mean, the shells came into play generally on the secondary relics for them. The early game was mainly focused about getting to the rotation, staying alive, farming up. When it hits level 12, that's when you'll see the second relics come out. more than likely we will probably see a Shell or two still. We may see some different options as well, based off what everybody else goes for. Because if you see some curses, you may see some more sprints.
Sure.
You see some shells, you may see some in response. EmilZy!
EmilZy gets deleted. Cherryo ends up getting credit for it. Big part of that, though, was the I'm a Monster from DeathPanter, and they clean him up to get a return kill, this time on the support.
One thing EmilZy can do is use his ultimate, but what he can't do is use his ultimate if he's silenced, then rooted into a Fear No Evil, into an I'm a Monster. There's no chance to turn into a dragon. No chance whatsoever, so Elevate answer back the kill that they got onto DeathPanter a little bit earlier on. Went to Cherryo, which isn't all doom and gloom. Would have been nice to go to Panther, considering that, we saw Prime get the first one, but it's not too bad.
Jermain, rather, trying to keep the pressure up over on Ataraxia. Has Dardez rotating over. That's why he feels so comfortable stepping up, as well as EmilZy being down for a while. But Twig recognized Cherryo's going in aggressively one more time, trying to catch him out.
And will actually be able to strip away the back copies, but he's got to be careful here. He's got his ultimate, though, so I'm not too worried about him. That's why they're actually leaving him alone there. They realize, hang on, we can't really kill him from this point. We know it's CaptainTwig on Ratatoskr. He can just ult away if he needs to. And because of that, Obey get the left-hand harpies at the back. They also get the oracles, too.
I said it was Cherryo being aggressive, but really it was Twig. Cherryo's in his own jungle, actually, and Twig's the one that's way deep there on the other side, looking for what he can to try and keep up. Good stun on Dardez to limit the follow-up that he could have on PrettyPriMe, as even Cherryo now is rotating over to mid, while CaptainTwig just comes back to these back harpies.
And that's a scary little thing if you think about this comp with Nox. She's got that root cripple combination.
Scary.
Well, same thing for DeathPanter. He can do it on AoE targets as well if he can hit one into the later stages of the game once he gets a few more ability levels online.
That's absolutely something he could do. And that's what I wanted to mention. They haven't really given up the control. Maybe they've given up the tankiness,
Correct.
But Fear No Evil between the Nox and, like you said, even the Root and No Numbers, they've got control still.
And that's the one thing now with this, it's going to be a bit of a chess match yet again, I want to say. It's what should I say, but it's going to be like a 10-minute dance because of that tier 1 going down on the left-hand side and Ataraxia doing such a good job. He's actually ahead of Jermain now in terms of levels.
I
Because
think taking that tower kind of hurt a little bit, really.
Well, it seemed like that was a plan from Elevate to, strip the tower. They're actually losing the tier 1 on right-hand side as this game goes on too, unfortunately, because Xalia's having a whale of a time against No Numbers with the pressure that he got early out of CaptainTwig.
CaptainTwig was helping him out a good bit over there. Ataraxia has just been, like you said, now with that Jing Wei passive, usually it's not quite to lane. Now it actually brings him right up to the minion range, so he's really good to come back in and just farm it up. He's been doing a good job freezing the wave too.
And going back to that tier 1 tower on the left-hand side that they took down in the duo lane, Jermain and Elevate, if they're going to do that, they need to have a plan. They need to know what they're going to do after that. Is it go for tower pushes? Maybe we go to mid lane. I wouldn't mind seeing Jermain just start grouping up mid. That was stolen? It was indeed. Jermain, good work there. Just to strip away that with the ricochet. But yeah, maybe see Jermain go mid. Force a situation in a 4v3 scenario of pressure in the mid lane, looking to take a tier 1 tower down there and put Obey really on the back foot. In the end, what you've done is you've given Ataraxia a nice little hidey hole to sit back in and farm from.
That's 100% what it feels like here to me. It felt like they thought that just taking the tier 1 tower on its own was enough, and I don't think it was. I think it was the gateway to doing something else, and they didn't really have a plan for it. And it does feel like maybe it's a little too late to really capitalize on it now, but it also doesn't hurt them or anything like that.
Well, he's put Jermain really quite far behind now. He's behind on Devour's Gauntlet stacks too.
Sure.
He's also got to overextend to get to a minion wave. Ataraxia is away, he's got no wards though, but right-hand side, No Numbers under a bit of pressure, but he is Xing 10 after all. No cripple field in range for Xaliea to really shut him down.
That's right. Xing Chen just going to be able to hop away without having any kind of care. Ataraxia once again backing up, and he'll be back in lane shortly thanks to that fortunate passive that he has. As you mentioned, he's already getting those Devil Glove stacks going, a little bit ahead of Jermain in that case so far. And when these two hunters start rotating in and we start having these team fights break out, that's when we've seen things break open. Usually it was when Xaliea and No Numbers come in, but now Ataraxia and Jermain are the only hunters here, so they're going to have big impacts when they come in.
Seems like a big contest over these oracles. We may get a big team fight.
And now not able to hit the I'm a Monster. EmilZy has a chance to go into the Dragonic Corruption, lands down as CaptainTwig on the DeathPanter, and there come the Taiko drums to finish it off. Jumping in further aggressively, though, is EmilZy. He's stuck in the silence, but didn't have the root to follow it up.
Oh, the shell kept him alive for a moment, but in came No Numbers to secure the kill, making it 1-for-1. Difference being it's support for a mid laner, and DeathPanter fell down again. Bit issue for DeathPanter there. He chose to rotate away from his team to get back to safety. Isolated himself, wasn't going to be able to do it. Did he steal those?
He got both of them.
Jermain's on fire with the ricochet. Jermain's just on fire today.
It was a nice ricochet, too. Yeah, you're right. Jermain's looking good on the Hui, and that team fight could have been a lot worse for Elevate. Being able to clean up EmilZy on the back end of it was really important. But it was because they didn't hit that I'm a monster. It felt like towards the beginning of the engagement, so they had to commit a little more.
I would like to see Jermain freeze the lane there now himself to make sure Ataraxia is out of position. Just return the favor to what Ataraxia is doing. It looks like he's doing that on the minimap now, which is good stuff. Just freeze it. Make sure that Ataraxia is like, hey, you want to play that game? I can do it too. Bad news is I don't think he chose to do it at the right time, which means he cleared the wave. It might be because they're looking for a cheeky Gold Fury now that they have those oracles there.
It's already been started up, and it's already close to half health. EmilZy's here, as is Ataraxia, though. Dardez is half health, too, so he's low. Gonna need to make sure that he's careful. Good stun from Jermain. DeathPanter just not quite there in time to follow up.
Got to be a little bit careful, though. When you look at the minimap, you had Artio in the mid lane, just ready to rotate in around the back if needed. And you've also got to keep an eye on where CaptainTwig is. Ratatoskr can turn up from a long way away with that. It's a little bit over a semi-global ultimate, I'd say, because you can bounce on that tree branch 3 times before landing. Means you can get a lot further and deeper than you ever expect him to be.
He's able to make pretty good rotations. Yes, it's right. CaptainTwig is, and he's been a big part of it. The knock-up, as you said, unless they preemptively beads, they're going to be up in the air trying to deal with that one too. So that's what makes Ratatoskr so strong. Why it's been a focal point of the banning phase, and now CaptainTwig showing us what it can do. Not
really too bad to see Twig go aggressive in the jungle on Dardez. I would like to see that, and he's going to do just that. Try and put Dardez on the defense and put some pressure on. But the rotations there from Jermain, that's going to force the ult out of Twig, but the red buff is still being attacked.
He's got that through the Cosmos, so instead he's just looking to use it defensively and backing up. Jermain actually kind of stepped up a couple steps as if to say, go ahead and land, buddy.
Sure, I mean, steal away red buff for what? For a Ratatoskr ultimate? It's not too doom and gloom. Also keep an eye on what CaptainTwig picked up as a secondary relic now as well, going for the Bracer of Undoing. Something we've not seen too much of just lately, but it is a nice little bait tactic for when good old Scylla comes swinging, trying to look for that reset.
Yeah, he'll be able to heal himself up, possibly outside of that damage threshold and not give her the reset. So it could certainly work for him in this game. PrettyPriMe and Ataraxia look like they've actually controlled, as you said, both those red buffs here now after that invade. So it is a small win for them on the left-hand side. They're not quite 1,000 gold up, but they got a little small lead due. Actually, it looks like it's actually elevated. We're up a little bit over Obey Alliance at this point.
It's very, very even between the two. It's not going to matter either way. It's been the tale of the tape so far. It's funny, whoever's been really winning the early game has lost the game so far, is what we found out. When we got to around the 15-16 minute mark, even if that team won that fight there, it doesn't mean they won the game. If anything, those have been the teams that have lost.
Yeah, it certainly looked like the early games, like you were saying earlier, is not as important as it once was, at least in this set in particular.
Yeah.
Because these have gone pretty long. I wouldn't say that's a global thing just yet, but between these two teams, it certainly seemed that way.
But now this is a situation where Elevate technically have a better late game. They really do have a stronger late game if they can get there. And Obey, though, they have better teamfight potential for themselves because they don't have to deal with 3 Guardians this time.
That's
They're
right.
creating such a front line. So, bit of a tricky one to call. Elevate, though, as the Death said, they have such a strong late game with a Scylla, with a Nox, with the Fear No Evil Monkey that's going to be critting potentially in the late game if he so chooses, will cause problems.
And last time it was, they had a hard time getting to the backline. So now they've got Ratatoskr who can get to the backline, but also it's not as crucial as it once was because now they don't have to fight their way on through.
No, they don't, because if you notice, they're getting to Panther quite easily so far this game. 2 kills onto him, been focused down. Obviously, a lot of people well aware of how Scylla's going to play too. You know the Sentinel, you know the Armor Monster. So when you get used to playing something so much and playing against it because it's been out for such a long time, it's very easy to read what the situation is going to be. Oh, if I jump at him now, he's going to ult defensively. If I jump at him now, he's probably going to Sentinel. You get used to that sort of method and madness.
And they've also changed up their plans for initiations, it looks here, on that side of Elevate at least. They've got the double blink coming out for No Numbers and Cherryo. It used to be just Cherryo blinking in, but now they're clearly going to be putting some respect to what No Numbers can do initiation.
True, but it's also you need that Guardian to have some sort of initiation is the reason we see No Numbers going for that blink too. That will come into play to allow him to initiate and then have Cherryo follow up, or vice versa. They could both follow up on each other, so one goes very deep. They need the other to potentially join in and help.
And looks like we're still not quite seeing the shell out of him. There is at least one on Obey Alliance, but Dardez could certainly still pick it up when he finally ticks over to level 12. Actually, the lowest level in the game right now.
Yeah, well, Dardez should be the lowest level. I mean, support player is going to be the lowest level. More than like, Twig's in trouble, has to beads early. Little bit of investment there with the Fear No Evil, but Fear No Evil for a beads is a pretty classic situation there. Would have liked that crush to have hit from DeathPanter, but it was a good escape from Twig. If the crush hits, you might have even got his other relic, potentially, if he's super worried.
Dardez now finally taking over that level 12 mark. As you said, supports do sometimes find themselves a little bit behind, so not too far behind, at least his opponent, EmilZy, so he's doing okay there. Cherryo looping around because EmilZy's pretty far forward, but he's got a lot of backup between Xaliea and CaptainTwig.
Well, Twig's going to be a little bit careful now for the next couple of minutes. With the beads being down, if he gets hit by a combo from Dardez, he's losing 3/4 of his health more than likely, especially if DeathPanter is close by or Cherryo. Overhead smash or a crush, he's going to just drop this little rat down a little bit more. Although, it's a tanky rat, so it's probably not as bad as I may have thought.
Look how much Obey are committing to vision over on the left-hand side. They've got 3 sentry wards put down. I think 1 for Elevate just fell off, so now it looks like they really don't have any vision, but I think this is also their back timing. So they'll come out, and we'll see how much they're willing to commit to the vision, too. Can
we see gold in, net worth for these two teams? I just want to see how much gold we've got between Ataraxia and Jermain here between the two. It's actually a 500 gold difference, too. I've just seen how much gold we had available there for our boy Ataraxia, because you can see the builds are just a little bit off-center. Full Titan's been available for Jermain so far.
That's right. Already, Jermain getting just a little bit out there ahead of Ataraxia in terms of his build. Not too surprising. They had the pressure in dual lane almost all game, and in response, Ataraxia did a good freezing of the wave. Oracle's now under duress from Elevate.
Should be able to get those oracles as well for free. No one really in position there from Obey, especially, like I said, CaptainTwig still no beads. Has to play it relatively safe. So just got to keep an eye out for that. Cherryo's ultimate is available again, so it is time for Elevate to maybe look to turn up the heat. They may look for a Gold Fury potentially at some point, especially now I see no numbers rotating over towards this side. They may have an idea about it.
And that's the chance that they have. Xaliea has to come over and defend that tower. No numbers, just trying to harass CaptainTwig a little bit, who still doesn't quite have his beads back yet, but as you said, he's got that mystical mail. He's feeling plenty tanky either way.
Such a critical game for Obey as well. With how these games have gone so far, they've always been the initiators for the most part in all 3 of the first games. Now they've kind of had to sit back a little bit this time and go, okay, let's see what happens next in this one. We might have to play a little bit more defensively, look for a bit of actual wait for them to engage. We'll counter this time around, especially with the compositions being completely different.
But you pointed it out before. I don't know if the counter initiation will even work because Elevate have 2 strong waves of initiation between No Numbers and Cherryo. Jermain has the Gold Fury pull, but it's just to get Ataraxia in. Not too much damage from Dardez.
Well, Fear No Evil was just used as well on the backside by Cherryo onto Raijin, and Raijin's used his beads, now his ultimate. Meanwhile, Panther being pressured out there by Xaliea. Good work from him. I'm a Monster might get used here, but is he going to get time to? No!
EmilZy's already taken down Cherryo, crashing down on the back as CaptainTwig on a DeathPanter, who we just saw drop his ult. Shell came out. Dardez did end up picking it up. That's going to help him out for the moment. PrettyPriMe cleans up DeathPanter. Ataraxia gets Jermain. 3 kills for Obey so far. And if CaptainTwig can make it out, this will be clean.
Oh, he will with EmilZy coming in too. Dardez giving a nice root silence, but it's not enough damage to bring down EmilZy. Ataraxia hasn't got the damage just yet to bring No Numbers down on his own. Might get some help from Xaliea, but I think the better option might be the Gold Fury.
I agree. Let's come on back and get this objective. Obey Alliance also agree. They're ready to come up and get it started. Dardez and No Numbers are still here, but no ultimates available. So, and there are still some low health bars on Obey.
Yeah, and Xaliea just on zone duty. This is a free Gold Fury here. Xaliea can just zone him away for days with that cripple field too. Works out well for Obey. Notice though how this team fight went down. If you can split Elevate up, Elevate are definitely a team 5-on-5 fighting unit. Obey are too, but Obey like to skirmish in the 5-on-5 fights. They want to break you apart and take you in different directions. And Elevate ended up getting split there, and it allowed Obey to really put on a show of what they can do in small little skirmish battles. Gets them the big win.
Well, plus 2 big-time ultimates were forced early on in the engagement. I'm a Monster and Fear No Evil both were low impact in that team fight. And those are some of the biggest ultimates that they have. They really need to be able to get a lot out of them, and they couldn't in that engagement. So now Obey Alliance are sitting up 5-2, about 4,000 gold, and now they're finally back in the driver's seat.
The focus seems to be on DeathPanter so far in this engagement from Obey, over and over again in this game specifically. You did see it. I mean, Cherryo using the Fear No Evil on to PrettyPriMe, got his beads. It also got Prime trying to use his ult too early, which meant that the Prime ult wasn't really available for that engagement either. But Panther being caught was different.
Now the Fear No Evil coming out from Cherryo catches 3. The Whirlwind of Raijin Steel also locks down PrettyPriMe. Cherryo's over to the right, and up in the air is CaptainTwig over on the left. Cherryo too low, Cherryo too gone. Ataraxia gets credit for that one. And then over on the left, Twig takes down Dardez.
Split them up and rip them apart. Obey are showing what they're very good at doing. Isolating people in team fights and ripping them away. Elevate can't clump like they used to because they've not got that triple frontline focus. They have to spread it out a little bit more, and that's where Obey are really shining. This game is looking solid for them. This could be a fire giant straight after this back.
They do have that portal demon, and all 5 of them going back to spend whatever gold they had. You can see them even coming back with some sentries too, as now they're going to come in, make sure they've got vision control, and yes, go ahead and start up this fire giant. DeathPanter, they can see Jermain on the map. DeathPanter's nowhere to be found. They know this this is free.
And now the pressure should be right-hand side, tier 1 tower, their middle tier 1 tower too. Just pick up some extra gold, get more of a lead off the back of winning that last engagement around the Paul Demon.
And this is interesting. The first 2 games here were both like 50 minutes already. Yeah. Game 2, that was a little bit more like 28 minutes because Elevate got a big team fight here. Now Obey have gotten a big lead earlier on than we've seen so far, about 6,500 gold. Can they keep it up?
A little bit reflective of game 1 though, if you look at it. Obey did at one point in time put the stranglehold on Elevate in that first game. Made a couple of oversteps, stayed around a little bit too long, gave Elevate that window back into it, which caused all the problems that Obey had in that set, in that first game. Now in this game, they've just got to be careful to keep the pressure up like they are doing, but don't overdo it. There's no reason to overdo it. Just keep putting the pressure on. You have control. You have the level leads on every single role now.
They also are not going into as tanky a composition this time, though, so the picks that they were trying to do that didn't work off might be more successful here against this Elevate roster because they're not just going to be as hard to take down. Instead, in this engagement, they won't have CaptainTwig, who does have Through the Cosmos available, so he can rotate if he needs.
Exactly. It's a little bit more patience now available from Obey to like, okay, let's wait for the wave. We're going to take the red buff. Twig's going to go back towards mid lane. He'll keep good old Jing 10 busy.
Yep.
And if he needs to, he can still rotate ahead of Jing 10, as you said, with that global ultimate. So the rest of the team can keep it a 4-on-4 fight over there. They've just got to be careful about getting hit by Cherryo. They've got all the beads up. It's only Ataraxia who's going to be careful in this engagement. He's got no beads, no Aegis, so that's probably what they're waiting for. Just a little bit of time for those relics to come back available.
They also have 2 mages this time, Hindu, so they're clear when they're doing these defenses is much improved from where we've seen
Very
before as far as against these minions is concerned. So Dardez can work on control and Scylla can clear, but going in is Xaliea and CaptainTwig crashes down in the back. EmilZy goes into the Dragonic Corruption and locks him down into the middle, but Jermain drops down the Sunbreaker.
Big fight for Elevate. The I'm a Monster hits 2. Shell comes into play, but Cherryo getting low, forced out as well. Ataraxia focused on the tier 2 tower. The funny thing about that engagement is when Dardez threw that ultimate early on, it actually hit PrettyPriMe and Ataraxia, and they both panicked for a second of like, oh lord. Oh, wait a second, it only tickled. It did reduce their damage though. So it slowed down the fight from Obey a little bit. The difference is that the front line of Obey did a good job of zoning away Elevate, while they did what they really came for, which was the tier 2 tower. Obey are keeping themselves in check a little bit more, which is where they struggled in that first game when we had a similar story.
The ones that got locked down and engaged and were also EmilZy, though, and with the help of that shell to keep him just a little bit topped up because he barely had any health. That's what let him survive through that I'm a Monster. If that goes through, if Scylla gets that reset, we see a very different fight over there on that side. Instead, tier 2 falls, still holding on to Fire Giant on all 5 members are Obey, and they still got another minute to push.
It's not just the Fire Giant, it's not just the tier 2 going down, it's not just that nobody died. Look at the relic situation of both teams as well after that last little engagement. You've only really lost your relics from what? Your solo lane and your Guardian? Well, how about your carries? Well, all 3 of your technical carries here are beautiful in that terms. Elevate, different story.
Dardez was able to lock down Xaliea, but with this build, he's tickling the Artio at this point. Cherryo at least getting a tier 1
he might as well.
over in right, since there's probably no chance he can defend. CaptainTwig helping him trying to get started because there's still the tier 1 up over here in that dual lane because of the pressure they had from earlier.
I like the little call there. You actually saw Twig backing in front of them on purpose. He was trying to like bait them in for Obey coming around the corner. The back though is also because he wants to make sure Cherryo doesn't get a free tier 2 tower on this right hand side and maybe even defend his speed buff, which is being looked at by Cherryo. Twig should know this is up. That's why he's just dashed through that mid lane trying to get towards his speed, but he realizes he's not going to get there in time.
Instead, Twig just making sure, like you said, the tier 2 over there in solo lane is still safe. Obey Alliance recognized, instead of taking a fight underneath that tier 2, let's come get this gold fury. Let's push ourselves up further in the gold, take a little bit of gold off the map for Elevate, and this might be one of the biggest leads we've seen yet today. 12,000 or so gold without the game being basically over is pretty significant.
The word is discipline, and that's the one thing Obey have corrected from the previous games. They're a little bit more disciplined this game. They're not overstaying the welcome. They're not trying to just like close out the game in one single push. Be disciplined. Be what Obey have been known to do. Like, just hold the control of the game, not make many mistakes. You don't make mistakes, you can't lose.
And this is after they made a couple of key adjustments here too, Hindo. Taking away the Artio away from Elevate. Going first pick here, which is what let them take away that Artio pick. And now Cherryo, instead of on a Guardian's, on an Assassin. Not to say that my dude doesn't play Unbatz well, because we all know he does, but you know, they've made them adjust their strategy.
Well, it's not just the... I mean, the Artio for this game isn't that much of a bigger factor. The difference is that he just stops Elevate doing this triple comp.
They don't have it, yeah.
It's just they can't do this triple tank composition situation that they've been going for. Yeah, I mean, if you look at, they still got the whole year. They could have still drafted the AMC if they wanted to.
Sure.
They just didn't have the tank lineup for the front line to make that work this game, and that's what shut them down. And the Cabrakan. Remember the Cabrakan ban too? That was also big. It wasn't just getting Artio, it was also taking that Cabrakan off the table from Elevate as well.
And Obey Alliance have finally made some good adjustments that appear to have Elevate on the ropes. Fire Giant has just now burst forth from his chains one more time, returned onto the map, only to soon be under siege from Obey Alliance, who are already grouping up and covering that Scylla lane side of the map in sentry wards so that they know they're safe to take.
Yeah, I mean, when Cherryo shows himself on that left-hand side, you have a really big feeling to yourself you're not going to get contested at this. Elevate are looking for a base defense now. They recognize it, and they've done it a couple of times so far this set already.
Oh, yeah.
Can't get the Phoenixes, look for a big-time play. Obey engaged last time. So Elevate will know that at the tier 2 tower line, when we saw on the right-hand side, it was Obey that engaged. Elevate will be wary now and be like, okay, they're going to engage again. How do we turn it around a little bit better than we did last time? Dardez managed to slow down some advance, but we still lost to tier 2. We need to make sure we don't lose the Phoenix, even though Phoenixes take a little bit more time than they used to.
That's right, they are a little harder to take. We saw PrettyPriMe rotate over to the duo lane there to slow down Cherryo's split push. I don't know if Cherryo was really trying to hard commit to it, but at the very least, PrettyPriMe showed some face over there and made sure Cherryo had to back off.
And it's also to make sure they're going to push this lane anyway to get the tier 2 tower, so why not just make sure Cherryo's back on his side of the map, you get him in a bit of check. They want to get some of these wards down that Obey have. They don't have too many of them in inventory right now, but need to put them down around behind the tier 2 tower where you can see Scylla on the minimap now, just that little juxtaposition transition from middle lane to the left-hand side. You get a ward down there where that sentry is that Elevate have, then you've got a good prime viewing experience of where Cherryo could be. He's the one that's going to be looking to come over the wall with a blink, initiate if he can. But they're not going to be looking at it right now. They're just going to push it straight on. Twig has met the whole team, though.
He's walking into the entire team of Elevate. Right now, he's very low health, but it looks like he was able to indeed get out. But they won't have this through the Cosmos for their initiation. They did get the tier 2 and left, and they're going to keep pushing because everyone's coming over from mid. They're not in the defensive position they would have wanted. PrettyPriMe goes up into the Taiko drums, forces everyone away, and let Phoenix fall from CaptainTwig's pressure.
So smart. So you saw Twig had no beads there. This is
no evil.
A forced ultimate out of Elevate, trying to commit to get something. Looking at EmilZy, I'm a monster, connects. No, it didn't connect. He gets away to live to fight for a moment. Dardez and Panther trying to go in.
He went in aggressive.
It's a slaughter.
Why did DeathPanter go in aggressive? He get blown up by Ataraxia. See you later, Dardez. Double kill for Ataraxia. Now the whirlwind of Rage and Steel, but it's only going to buy you a moment. No numbers. Triple kill for Ataraxia. Obey Alliance continue to push into the base.
And this could be game 4. We will be going to 5 games. This is guaranteed now. That was Elevate trying to hold on, trying to make something out of nothing, and in the end, it just cost him the game.
Yeah, there was no way for Elevate to stick around in that team fight. It all starts, though, it 100% starts from CaptainTwig's pressure in the middle lane. Because of that pressure, because they all commit, they just keep pushing down left, and then they don't have a defensive position around the Phoenix, take the Phoenix away, then they keep on pushing after the overcommit.
So with Twig going mid there, what happened was he uses beads and ultimate defensively to try and buy time. The rest of the team take tier 2, push onto the Phoenix. Prime's ultimate, though, that was really important. Prime's ult wasn't for damage, it was for zone. He's just like, keeping them all away, and by keeping them all away, it just meant Ataraxia was whacking on the Phoenix, takes it down. Then, everyone just wants to fall back. That's when Elevate like, damn it, we lost a tier 2 and a Phoenix for nothing, we need to commit. So what do? Commit, they get turned on, mistakes were made.
Now, DeathPanter, what I'm thinking is that he uses that ultimate just before EmilZy's targetable again, while he's still immune. Is that what happened there with it?
Yeah,
I think it was just barely where he couldn't hit him.
It's either the shell came up and protected him enough, which I'm not 100% sure, or the Iron Monster just missed. It looked to me like it was just a frame too early for that connection, which I think he should have died. That's what I'm expecting. He should have died from that Iron Monster, but the frame too early is the issue.
But either way, that game does go in favor of Obey Alliance, tied up 2-2. Let's get over to the desk one more time to break it down.
Well, looks like you said it best, Jeff. Obey did make the comeback, and now we're looking at a full-on best-of-5, or technically a best-of-1 when you think about it.
It's that's how I've always have looked at the 5th game, right? Like, it's just the best of 1 left. That's it. That's all it is.
We always talk about just best of 5s evolving throughout every single game, and this time around, DeathPanter playing this mage on the Scylla did not pan out for them. The double hunter composition wasn't employed here in this game, and I think that there was the adaptations from Obey Alliance here, picking the Ratatoskr that was casually forgotten about by Elevate.
Well, I don't really have too many issues with the way that Elevate chose to draft. I just think that Ataraxia seemed to have all of the responses, and he did such an excellent job after losing his T1 tower so early on in the match, and yet he was still able to not only reliably farm it back out and just kept safe the entire time.
As a poor and little old lonely Jing Wei left alone pre-3 minutes losing that tower is never a good feeling as a hunter in the competitive scene, but coming back strong here, not letting it deter him from the main goal, playing off of his team so well, and always aware in these team fights, using his relics in full effect, especially considering there's so many things that Elevate can throw at Ataraxia in these team fights between the Hunbat's Fear No Evil, through Raijin Steel by Xing, and then even the Scylla long distance.
I honestly think losing that tower early helped him out a lot, because when Jing was farming at her tier 2 tower, at no point in the game do you want to dive a Jing at tier 2. She'll just get out every time, and then you're so out of position, especially when it's that early on. Like, she's just able to free farm, and you're never able to harass her anymore.
They got the tower, but they could never really shut down Ataraxia, surviving every single team fight without a single death. Didn't have the most damage in the world, but that doesn't matter, because your whole goal as a hunter in these games is just to not feed, not allow the opposing hunter to get off.
I think it was also just the fact that Ataraxia simply just had so much survivability. It's just entirely too risky, like you mentioned, Jeff, for him to try, or for Jermain to try and push up that lane to look to farm it out, push the wave up even harder, because typically when there's a T1 tower right there, you know that you can always just fall back, and you kind of know you don't really want to push past that halfway mark. But when the tower's not there anymore, it's hard to say if a Ratatoskr is going to try and make his way over for a gank.
Yeah, you can push up to that purple occasionally when you know where their jungler is, and you can kind of see like, oh, Rat has a global ult or like semi-global ult, and he can be here. But you can't push past purple. You can't push tier 2 at 5 minutes. No way. Like, you will always get punished for that in this environment.
And I think Elevate needs to go back to the drawing board here. The early first 3 games were showing good signs of the way they were able to kind of use the Nox and use their Guardian composition here to their advantage. But I think the one key strategy that they did or that they didn't do here in game number 4 was allowing CaptainTwig this global pressure.
I think that was a big part of it. They had the chance to ban Rat, right?
Yep.
And they banned Cirque instead, which I still think was a mistake. Their draft at that point dealt with Cirque while they previously dealt with Cirque basically with that draft. And then they're like, no, you can't play it. Like, if that was a Rat ban instead, that would have went a lot smoother.
That's true. It's very easy for a Ratatoskr to go into that backline as opposed to that Cirque head, especially against that Nox. So I think Elevate can easily go into game number 5 like, all right, we got this far. This turns into a best of 1. We were all expecting them to drop into group play. Well, here's their best of 1 group play.
And now's their chance to try and make sure that they don't end up in it. And I think that's really the direction that Elevate wants to go with. Is nobody really is trying and make it out of the group stages. This is probably the most frightening group stage I've seen so far out of Supers. And another important thing, though, and Jeff, you were actually talking to me about it over there while the game was happening, but the Raijin. Again, I know that they haven't chosen to ban it, and after having so much success against it with that Nox pick, and PrettyPriMe, though, in every single match, whether Obey has won or lost, he just seems to have a large amount of success with this god.
I want to keep the Cuckoo ban. I want to drop Raijin. Make Prime play something else. He's played it for 4 games, and for 4 games straight, he has played very well on it. Make him do something else. Give him the chance to, honestly, give him the chance to choke on a different god and be uncomfortable.
And look what happened to DeathPanter and Cherryo when you get them off of their specific roles. Not necessarily the same exact gods, but, you know, Cherryo's been playing this Guardian, whatever it is between Cabrakan or the Artio. DeathPanter playing any sort of hunter that he really wants to, not having the same success in game number 4. So game 5, maybe that's a strategy that Elevate can employ and just get the Raijin out of PrettyPrime's hands.
Cherryo as well on that whom Batz was actually building a little bit tankier than what people are probably accustomed to seeing on an assassin like that. And the main mindset there, which I can definitely appreciate from Elevate, is you want to launch off those beads burning ultimates one after the other, but I think Elevate kept falling victim to launching 1 or 2 of them at the same time.
And I also think he kind of went a little too much in that direction. It's great to burn beads, and you obviously it's so easy to. But if you're just CCing them and there isn't a big threat of dying, then they're not going to use their actives, and it's kind of just pointless.
I mean, it's almost pointless to be picking Hunbat's to be that ult bot. You have Scylla for damage, sure, but if Scylla's not hitting her abilities, whereas there wasn't too many ultis being hit there, then you need to find the damage elsewhere. And this could have been a good time for Cherryo to build more damage-oriented and try to put the team on his back.
I really want to see DeathPanter go back on a hunter. He on Hui and AMC, he was playing great. He didn't have a good time on the Scylla. That's okay. There's how many hunters you can pick.
Yep.
There's how many different combinations that you can get that, that big front line to protect you. Like, they definitely can make this work. They can definitely get back to their previous drafts.
It just seemed like such a heavy issue for DeathPanter where he kept trying to work around the backside, but EmilZy was doing a phenomenal job at just making sure that Scylla could go nowhere near the team. Majority of the time, whenever DeathPanter was using that I'm a monster, it was in defense to try and get that additional movement speed to run away from the fight as opposed to being a part of it.
And more importantly was switching things up for EmilZy too, going away from the Sylvanas now for a Fafnir. He's able to really help some of these team fights around the Gold Fury and Fire Giant.
I loved seeing the swap. Like I said, the Sylv wasn't doing poorly. It wasn't doing insane. But all right, we swapped it. I got a Faf game in, and he played great on Faf.
And